18-year-old Axel Rudakubana pleaded guilty to the murders and attempted murder of 10 others. He was 17 when he went on his killing spree, which means the judge will not be able to give him a whole life order. Joining us this morning from Westminster is the Housing Minister, Matthew Pennycook. Good morning to you. I know that you have
Susanna.
Policy issues to discuss around building and planning in just a moment. But first, I wonder if we can address the outrage that people are feeling this morning that someone guilty of such heinous crimes is not going to be technically able to be given a whole life order. What's your visceral reaction to that?
Well, I can understand people's emotional reaction to that. You'll forgive me if I don't comment on the sentencing itself and prejudice, therefore, a live judicial case. But I can understand the anger that people will be feeling. The sentencing guidelines are what they are, dependent on a perpetrator's age, obviously. But this is a live case, and let's see what comes out of the sentencing later today.
You can comment on what a lot of people are very worried about later this morning, particularly the families, of course, that Rudakubana may choose not to appear in court, or if he does, he may choose to cover his face with his top, which he's done in most of the hearings leading up to his guilty plea. Is it time to remove that kind of power of final control from people like him and if necessary, bring them handcuffed and shackled into court?
Well, we are taking steps to ensure that when people are charged, they must turn up at court. I'm not going to speculate on whether this sick individual will do that or won't do that. We'll try and resist doing so. I think what's most important in all of this, actually, is that we think about the families, not only of the young girls who were so horrifically murdered, but the other families that are affected, who will be having an incredibly difficult day today. Many of them are giving testimony. And I think our first thoughts should be with them. But I'm not going to, for reasons I've already given, speculate on what may happen in the sentencing itself.
OK, I'm not sure that the judge would be affected by an interview with you in terms of what he's going to do with the sentencing. But the families are absolutely at the heart of this. This week, we spoke to the mother of Olivia Pratt-Corbell, 9 years old, when she was killed. And she was meeting the Prime Minister this week in order to press that this rule that the convicted should be brought to court under any circumstances in order to face the families. I'm not sure that we know what the outcome of that is and whether you are moving at pace in order to make sure that that law, Olivia's law, comes in.
Well, we are moving at pace, and forgive me, Susanna, the Prime Minister was very clear at Prime Minister's questions yesterday. We are determined to act on this to ensure that perpetrators face their victims when they're sentenced.
But it won't apply today, will it?
It won't apply today because we obviously have to bring in those changes, but we are moving at pace to ensure that they're made.
So you totally accept that these people cannot have the last word. They cannot be allowed to maintain this element of power and control over proceedings?
Absolutely, and that's exactly why the Prime Minister said we're going to act on this specific issue.
And when will that come in?
I'm not going to give you a timeline on this interview this morning, but as I said, we're working at pace to ensure those changes are made.
Right, let's talk about planning and building. Are we going to see the end of NIMBYism as we've known it in this country under your watch?
Well, we are going to take action to reduce the power that those who bring forward spurious or cynical claims under judicial review have to delay the process. Under our plan for change, as you'll know, we're determined to kickstart economic growth, and part of that means streamlining the process for determining critical national infrastructure projects. We've already made changes through national planning policy last year to support that objective. We're making further changes through the planning and infrastructure bill that will be introduced in the House of Commons in the coming months. And as part of that package, what we're announcing today is the number of judicial review permission attempts will reduce from 3 to 2 in most cases. And in those cases which have no merit, and that's the determination of the judge, not the government, but in those cases that have no merit, from 3 to 1. And this will streamline the delivery of infrastructure because we know, and I could give you many examples, of where spurious or cynical claims have held up the delivery of these projects by many years, ultimately having been thrown out by the courts. And that has a real-world impact because working people across the country as a result of those delays, face higher energy bills, longer commutes, pressure on water supplies, because we're increasing the uncertainty and therefore the costs to development. So we're taking action today to stop that happening.
Were you a NIMBY when you voted against the expansion of Heathrow Airport back in 2018?
Well, my voting record and my views on that particular matter are a matter of public record. We're not saying, just to be clear, and I think this is often framed in sort of binary terms, we're not saying that people can't object to applications, and they'll still have a chance to object through the statutory consultation to nationally significant infrastructure projects of the kind we're addressing this morning.
That's pretty significant, isn't it, the expansion of Heathrow Airport? Would you vote for it now?
Well, I'm not going to speculate on an application that hasn't been made. Heathrow haven't submitted an application. In general terms, what I can say, Susanna, is obviously the government are committed to the long-term future of the aviation sector in the UK. Any aviation proposal that came forward under this NSIP route through a development consent order, this is the type of significant projects we're talking about this morning, would have to demonstrate not only that it contributes to economic growth, but that it's compatible with our legally binding climate change commitments and that it meets high environmental standards around air quality and noise pollution. But I'm not going to speculate. There's no Heathrow application in at the moment. I think what we're saying on any critical national infrastructure, whether it be transport projects, energy projects or aviation projects, is where it's appropriate that they come forward, we want to see the process for determining them made much quicker and cheaper and more certain.
The boss of Heathrow said last month he needs a clear steer from the government by the end of this year over plans to expand the airport. Can you give him a clear steer?
I'm not going to give him a clear steer this morning. As I say, there's no live application. It is for Heathrow to submit that application, and it would be determined via the processes that are in place. What we're announcing today is real action to try and streamline those processes so any appropriate critical national infrastructure that comes forward can be determined quickly. And as I said, that will have a real-world benefit for people across the country in lower energy bills, better commutes, reduced pressure on water supply, because it will reduce the costs of development. So this is real action to try and streamline the delivery of that critical infrastructure. And you all know, I hear it on the doorstep all the time, people just saying, we can't get anything in this country built, it all takes too long. This government are determined to change that situation
Minister,
and get that critical
down
infrastructure built quickly.
We're over time, but thank you very much indeed for sharing yours with us here this morning.